North Carolina just keeps doing it, stacking win after win after win, and apparently no one will ever score 70 on the Tar Heels again.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. It's Isaac Shade coming at you late for a live reaction after Carolina's big time win at NC State on Wednesday night. I cannot get enough of this action. I want to welcome you into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I want to thank you everydayers for joining us. If you're not an everydayer, that's okay. Come join us in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. We have a great time in there. We'd love to have you. The link for that is always in the show notes. So here's what we're going to do on this live reaction. We're going to do 4 big picture things and then 4 specific things from this game. And then on tomorrow's show, I'll have a full recap for you, breaking it down in all the usual ways: 4 corners recap, shady stat of the game, all that good stuff where we'll dive in deeper. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the live chat that's rolling right now. Lots of folks are in there hanging out already. Thank you all so much for coming to hang out even late on the East Coast. I know we're getting close to midnight. And then on Friday's show, Coach Rob is going to join me to give a few thoughts on this win over NC State, and we'll get ready for the Syracuse game on Saturday. All right, folks, we're going to dive into it, and I'll talk for a little bit. And when we get into the game specific stuff, I'm going to put up the box score so you all can see that in real time. So we're going to start with our big picture things first, and here they are. Number one, the biggest storyline there is for me right now is North Carolina's defense. It is awesome. I had just said to Coach Pat Kilby recently, or maybe it was Coach Rob, like, hey, this Carolina defense has a potential to be this team's calling card. It has the potential to be something this team can really hang their hat on, any of those cliches that you want to say. And I tell you what, they just keep doing it over and over again. On the big picture level, Carolina has 5 straight wins now. In that streak, no opponent has scored 70 points. And in the 3 straight ACC games Carolina has just finished off, they have held all of those opponents under 60. That's right. Not a one of them has gotten above 60 points in this stretch that the Tar Heels are in. I can give you the specifics on it really quick. That's Pittsburgh scored 57, Clemson 55, and NC State 54. I think that means that Syracuse will score 53 on Saturday in the Dean Dome. And I kid, but in all seriousness, it's crazy what the Tar Heels defense is doing, but I'm very much pleased with it. As for how you look at the metrics of it, in terms of KenPom, Carolina's defense is now ranked higher than their offense. The Tar Heels as a team are 10th overall, but they are 15th in offensive efficiency as we talk right now in real time, and 8th in adjusted defense efficiency. That's right. The Tar Heels are 8th in the nation in defensive adjusted efficiency right now. And by the way, that means they're top 15 in both of those categories. They are one of only 3 teams that are top 15 nationally in both adjusted offense and defense. The other 2 are Arizona, and actually Auburn has just jumped in there too. So I should take that back. 4 teams total: Arizona, Auburn, Duke, and the Tar Heels. Those are the only 4 teams top 15 in both. So, you love to see that. So that's number 1 of what we're looking at. Carolina's defense. Big picture point number 2. While everyone else is losing, Carolina is finding ways to just keep consistently winning. And I know this game was not the prettiest thing any of us have ever seen, but guess what? It was a win by double-digit points on the road at a rival. I will take that. And meanwhile, while Carolina's stacking these wins, everyone around them is losing. Purdue and Houston, number 1 and 2 in the nation, lost last night to unranked teams. Tonight, Kansas, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Clemson, All four of those teams are ranked. Kansas 3, Tennessee 5, Oklahoma 9, Clemson 21. All four of them lost on the road to unranked opponents. The Tar Heels did not. And that's critically important. Oh, and by the way, if you hadn't caught that, like, it's not just ranked teams. Miami, just see what they did tonight? Boy, I would not want to be Jim Larinaga or any of his players. Miami lost at home to Louisville. Meanwhile, the Tar Heels have grabbed sole possession of first place in the ACC since Wake Forest lost last night, and we beat tonight NC State, the only other undefeated team in the entire ACC. Let's go. The Tar Heels are in sole possession of first place. That's what I'm saying. Point number 2. Everyone else keeps losing. Carolina keeps winning. You love to see it. Third, big picture takeaway right now. This is Carolina's third straight road game. We mentioned that. By the way, it's their only 3 road games of the season, and they've been just fine. Thank you very much. This means the worst Carolina could finish on the road in ACC play is 3-7, and I'm going to go ahead and guess that they will do much better than that. Thank you very much. Remember last year, 4 wins on the road last year. They've already got 3 right now, 15 games into the season. But importantly, not only has Carolina played 3 straight road games, they've played 3 straight quad 1 games. All 3 of these at Pitt, at Clemson, at State were quad 1s. And what have they done in each one of them? That's right. They have won every one of those 3 straight quad 1 wins. That's point number 3 in our big picture look. Now, Carolina has 5 quad 1 wins on the season, or they will do when the net rankings refresh tomorrow morning. The net, if you don't keep up with it, Ken Palm updates in real time as games go final. The net just updates every morning. So this hasn't updated yet, but assuming everything plays out as it should, when we wake up tomorrow, or if you stay up super late tonight, which I probably will because I'm a night owl and it's what I do, Carolina will have 5 quad 1 wins. You know how many other teams have that many or more? 2. Purdue has 6 quad 1 wins. Arizona has 5. Carolina will be just the second team to have 5 quad 1 wins and the third team to have 5 or more. And it's not like there's a bunch of teams sitting around with 4. There's only 3 other teams that have 4 quad 1 wins right now. Carolina, by virtue of doing this, is not only cementing their place in the NCAA tournament, they are vying for one of the best seeds in the nation. Like if you were with me yesterday's show, Joe Lunardi, or today's show, excuse me, Joe Lunardi has Carolina as a 2 seed right now and 7th overall in the nation. Winning games like this keeps you in that spot, even if you take a loss or 2 down the stretch. Carolina is doing great things. So that's where things will be when we wake up tomorrow. Now, fourth big picture thing I want to say is what this means going forward. The danger now is Carolina taking one even teensy tiny small little breath, relaxing. They cannot do that at all. What's nice about winning the first 4 ACC games, the Florida State game early in December, and now these 3 straight road games, is that Carolina has afforded themselves some breathing room. As I just said, if you take an uncharacteristic loss, it's mitigated by what you've done in non-con and right now. But that cannot mean complacency. That's the difference in what we're looking at. It doesn't mean taking your foot off the gas. It doesn't mean stopping to breathe. As soon as anyone in this program, Coach Davis, any of the assistants, any of the players says, whew, good, we survived that road trip. Let's breathe a little bit. As soon as someone says that, you're toast. As soon as that happens, Syracuse comes into the Dean Dome on Saturday and beats you because you think you accomplished something by beating Pitt, Clemson, and NC State on the road. No, it only matters if you keep stacking these wins. And there's no reason Carolina cannot and should not do that. At this point, you're 4-0 in the ACC. Everyone else has at least 1 loss. You got to keep going. So you look at tonight, you look what you did, take the wins, take the losses from it. You learn from it, a little Dean Smith action there, right? And then you move on. You turn your attention tomorrow, Thursday morning, when you wake up. Sure, you're happy because you beat NC State. Armando got to wave by and everybody got to do Wolfpack down and whatever, and that was fun. But when you wake up tomorrow, your attention is on Syracuse. and you ain't going against a zone anymore. That's the new thing under Red Autry. They don't play zone. So that's the thing. Carolina's danger now is relaxing. That cannot happen. Got to keep moving forward. All right, that's our 4 big picture things. I want to move now to 4 game specific things. And then I want to see if you guys have dropped any questions in the chat there. I see some questions coming in. If you have some, I'm going to answer maybe 2 or 3 tonight, but then I've still got to record tomorrow morning's show, Thursday's show. So we're not going to hang out too long in our live reaction tonight. All right, game specific things. Quick water break there. Number 1, Carolina is learning how to win methodically. And that's what this game was, very similar to Clemson. Now look, let's just be very clear and honest. The first half of this game was not pretty. I felt like it had no rhythm. I felt like it had no flow. I felt like the flagrant call on Armando was weak and wrong, quite frankly. I'd love to hear what you thought. Like would love to see some stuff in the chat about how you felt about that. And so, man, like, love that so much, that Carolina was able to look at that first half, take everything that happened, still up 2 points, by the way, at halftime. And then in the second half, just keep doing the things that they needed to do, even on a night when, yet again, they're not shooting their best. But it's just kind of like Nova. What is it in Remember the Titans? Remember Coach Herman Boone, played by Denzel Washington, is talking about their triple options. Like, hey, just give it time, it'll work. That's what Carolina's been doing. They are veteran and mature, and they trust the process. And what does that mean? Well, most of the second half, there was like a 4, 5, 6, 7 point lead, and then just systematically pulled away down the stretch. That's what this team is capable of, game in and game out. And I love to keep saying, like, Clemson, it was the same kind of thing. It just feels like it's this close game, and then you look up and it's like, oh, I feel like we're not even playing our best, and suddenly we're up double digits. That's what it was here. State cut the lead down to 4 with 8:52 to go in this game. The score is 52-48 at that point. Seth Trimble had just gone on that beautiful run where he got 5 straight points for Carolina. But at that point, 8:52 left in the game, Carolina goes on a 15-2 run to end of the game. It's 67-50 at that point, and they did that over a stretch of 4 minutes and 46 seconds. And at that point, the game's done. It's over. NC State can't do anything. Like, Carolina didn't even really – actually, they didn't score again. Is that right? That's the – oh, I didn't put the box score up, y'all. I'm so sorry. Let me do that really quick right now. Let's get that box score up while we're talking here. Hang on just a second. Boom. There you go. Now you can see the box score. Carolina finishes with 67 points. That's how many they had at the end of this 15-2 run. But it doesn't matter because they had built this lead, and NC State was done. They were checked out. Carolina had taken their will to live, and I love it. So that is what Carolina is doing so well. They are learning how to win methodically, systematically, whatever kind of word you want to use, they're doing that. And so that's the thing for me this season. There are going to be games when Carolina shoots infinitely better than they did in this one. But even when not, it's still working. And it's working really, really well right now. All right, number 2 in our kind of game-specific takeaways. Let's talk about our man, Harrison Ingram. Am I right? Like, yet again, didn't have a great shooting. It was better than he's done of late. He was 4 of 9 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. And yet again, another critical 3. He had several moments in the first half. Actually, I think 6 of his 9 points were all in the first half, because he had a couple moments where he got a smaller player switched on him and he just backed them down and scored in the paint. It was brilliant. But 19 rebounds? Are you kidding me with that right now? Like, what on earth? This dude has set career highs in rebounding in 2 out of 3 games, and that's gone right in line with Carolina getting much better in the rebounding category. You know, like, over these since the Oklahoma, it was UConn out-rebounded Carolina by 10. Kentucky, same thing, by 10. Oklahoma by 7. Since then, Carolina blitzed Charleston Southern. And then Carolina had, I believe it was a plus 10 against Pitt, who was number 1 in the ACC in rebounding, plus however many it was against Clemson on Saturday. And then in this one, plus 7 over NC State. And that's with Armando Bacot only having 5 rebounds. And Carolina still out-rebounded their opponent by 7. That is gang rebounding. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Tar Heels had at least 1 rebound. That'll do it. But anyway, we're talking about Harrison Ingram. Let's keep talking Harrison Ingram. What he's doing, what he brings to this team, whether it's scoring. I mean, this is his 3rd straight game now in single-digit scoring. He had a chance right at the end of the game to get it to double digits and missed both free throws. Something was going on with the fans. I think it was one of those promotional things, whatever. But man, Harrison Ingram is so critical to this team's success. He's gritty. He takes challenges that come his way. And let's also say there was that moment where he was Carolina was inbounding it from the baseline. Harrison Ingram jumped up to try to save it and just crashed in to that older gentleman who was apparently a big NC State donor. And I thought it was just really, really kind how the two of them handled that together. The gentleman looked like something happened to his hand, but he called Harrison over and told him like, hey, you got to keep playing. Don't let this affect you. I just thought that was a really kind moment. Harrison went back over to check on him, and that was neat. So I thought that was a really neat moment between competitors. But Harrison Ingram, massive game from him. You love to see it. All right, next thing. I know we've already talked about defense specifically, but I want to talk about the 3-point defense because that has been critical of late. NC State, number 1 in the ACC in 3-point attempts. They don't hit, I think coming in, they were 33% on the year from deep. So it's like shoot a ton and, you make some of them, right? Carolina shoots fewer, but makes more. NC State just doesn't. They shot 2 of 21 in this game. Similar to Clemson on Saturday, hit precisely 0 in the first half. They were 0 of 10 in the first half from deep. So NC State finishes 2 of 21. That's 9.5%. But let's look at these last 3 road games combined, where Carolina's just been running their opponent off the 3-point line. Clemson, 1 of 18. Pitt was a scorching compared to Clemson and State, 5 of 29. So that means combined, these 3 ACC games back to back, Carolina's opponents have gone 8 of 68 from the 3-point line. That's 11.8% combined in the last 3 games. Now, look, I know some of that is teams just missing shots, but you can't tell me that's just coincidence. Carolina's defense is running guys off the 3-point line. I know for a lot of this game, the Tar Heels were content to guard DJ Burns one-on-one so that he's a great passer. Like, give DJ Burns credit for that. But Carolina was not letting him get those kickouts. But even when Carolina finally had to start doubling him because of foul trouble and Mondo on the bench, Carolina was able to make their rotations, cause some turnovers, cause some bad passes. Like, this 3-point defense is doing it. There's going to be games when teams hit more. Like, that's just a fact. But Carolina is doing a great job at holding down 3-point shooting teams. All right, one more game-specific thing, and then we'll take some questions. If you've been dropping them in the chat, I'm going to look through that here in just a second. The last thing I want to mention is Carolina's offensive balance. This is now, if I have my numbers right, the 3rd straight game where no Tar Heel has gotten to 20 points in the game. RJ Davis led the way with 16. But here's what I love. Like, I'm okay with that when it means that Carolina is getting better offensive balance. You'll recall that on Saturday, all 10 players that came into the game scored at least 2 points. Similar thing tonight. Again, no Tar Heel got to 20, but all 5 starters had at least 8 points. RJ Davis, 16. Elliot Cadeau, 11. Bacot and Ingram, both 9. And Cormac Ryan, 8. And oh, by the way, not that the bench lit the world on fire, but they got 14 points. 4 of the bench players scored as well. Seth Trimble had 6, 4 for Jalen Withers, 2 each for Jalen Washington on that nice putback, and Zayden High, who had what I thought was an important first half bucket. And so Carolina's offensive balance has been impressive to me. I don't need RJ to be scoring 20 a game if it means that everyone is contributing, because that makes these scouting reports so much more difficult for the opposition when it's like, shoot, not only do we have to contend with RJ, but Cormac Ryan might be heating up a little bit. What did he shoot from 3 tonight, by the way, Cormac Ryan? 2 of 6. All right. Getting there slowly but surely. Going to get back up over 30%, Cormac will. But you'll love to see this offensive balance. And I think that will be a key for Carolina moving forward. One other thing I wanted to mention, I know I said one more game specific thing, but Kevin Keats drives me bonkers with getting out on the court. There was one time when RJ Davis was bringing the ball up, it was probably 4 feet in from the sideline, and Kevin Keats was like beside him. And that wasn't, I counted at least 3 times where he was well into the court. And my thought was, like, if I'm RJ in that moment, I'm just veering over and running into him and forcing the refs to call a technical on NC State. Why not? If he's going to be out on the court, make him pay. Anyway, that just bothers me so much. Okay, y'all, it's a happy night. Carolina's 4-0 in ACC play. This is phenomenal. I want to take some of your questions, and then I got to go record tomorrow's podcast. All right, let's get through it here. Drew Cagle, let me put this up. Drew says, hey, thoughts on Baycott's second half usage on offense? Needed him to get involved after only 2 points at halftime. Yeah, Drew, you're right. Like, and obviously part of the problem, there's a multitude of things here. Number one, that flagrant foul they called on Armando that, again, I thought was a Bush League call. I think here's what happened. If you want my opinion, when you stop the play later, you can't go back and adjudicate it as a common foul. If you don't call a common foul in real time, you can't assess that from video replay. All you can assess is a flagrant one. So to me, the refs were using that as a makeup call to give Armando a common foul. But unfortunately, as we know, it hurt Carolina because NC State got shots in the ball. Whatever. I'm over it. Carolina won. We move on. But that made that foul that Armando picked up at the beginning of the second half his third foul instead of what I thought should have just been his second, in which case he can stay in the game. Now, I was really hoping for Carolina to run more pick and roll with RJ and Armando together. They didn't necessarily do that. But Drew, I think it was one of those situations where with Armando just not being really able to get into the offensive rhythm with the rest of his team as Carolina would have liked and hoped, they just weren't able to get him going. The other part of it was that I thought DJ Burns was doing a good job of just being a wide body and not letting Armando get around him, is forcing Armando to go through him or above him. And that's not really Armando's game. Armando needs to be able to move and get into space. And so until they started wearing down a little bit, Armando started getting some more rebounds and able to get some putbacks and things like that. But Drew, I thought that was what chiefly contributed to it, is just one of those games where he's hampered with foul trouble and never really able to get into the offensive flow. Let's keep looking. Oh, I love this one. This is a great question from Tar Heel in Georgia. Tar Heel in Georgia, where are you at? That's my home state. Let's go, baby. I grew up on the south side of Atlanta in Stockbridge. Would love to hear where you're from. Tar Heel in Georgia says, how do you think Cadeau handled himself, especially in a hostile environment? Somebody had asked me about this week. Is like, how do you think Cadeau, I think this was in our Discord. By the way, if you're not in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, come join it. We'd love to have you there. It's so much fun. Seriously, it's great place to be. How was Elliott going to handle himself in this crowd? This is just his third true road game, and the other two being Pitt and Clemson. It's not the same level as going to State, where there's like legit animosity between the fan base and the players. And so I thought Elliott handled himself well late, Tar Heel in Georgia. And what I mean by that is early in the second half, there were some moments where he just, made some misplays. There was that turnover late in the first half, about 45 seconds left, where he spun right into, what's that dude's name from NC State? O'Connell, right? Is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah, Michael O'Connell, who had, I kind of like him as a player, but got a strip. And so there was some of that from Elliott. And so Coach Davis brought in Seth. And Seth, man, just keeps doing what Seth is doing. I love it so much. But what it did was allowed Elliott some moments on the bench to sit, soak stuff in. And then I thought his play down the stretch of the game was really mature and level-headed. I loved the ways in which he picked a couple spots tonight to attack the rim. there was a couple passes he had that were really impressive to me. Obviously led the team tonight with 6 assists. I think just 2 turnovers to that one at the end of the half. And I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but 4 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. And so all in all, I thought Cadeau handled himself well and is another building block in his freshman career. That's a great question there, Tar Heel in Georgia. Love that. Let's look for just shadow computing. I love you bringing this back. So for those of you who aren't regular listeners or watchers of the show, Pat Kilby and I over the summer each Wednesday did What If Wednesday, and we just proposed scenarios where we were looking at, hey, Carolina, just whatever, looking ahead on the season. And one of them was Carolina's got this home game against Florida State early in December, and then 3 other road games to begin the main chunk of ACC play. So one of our what ifs, and shadow computing is reminding me of this, was what if Carolina starts 4-0 in ACC play? And we just, went on that. You can go back and find it. But shadow computing is reminding me, it's like, yeah, here we are. Carolina has done it. And now they've put themselves in the driver's seat in ACC play, and no reason to not keep going with that. So I'm so glad you reminded me of that, shadow computing. That's phenomenal. Derek Murphy asked about the flagrant on Baycott. I already talked about that some, and I'll talk about it more on Thursday's full show as well. 400 Bones, you are doing work. Thank you so much for this. So 400 Bones says, I just want to say, and I didn't want to say in the Discord, but last year when UNC lost to State, the only game Hubert Davis has lost to State, by the way, I was eating Mexican food, and tonight I was afraid the dinner plans were going to spoil the game. And then went on to say, but this team is bigger than bad luck. So here's why 400 Bones says this. In the Discord, if you're not in there, we've recently come up with a tradition of before each game, everyone pipes in with pictures or words about what they're eating during the game. And so 400 Bones is trying not to jinx it. I love it. 400 Bones. That's straight up go where you go and do what you do. All right, let's see. King Asia Math asks, when was the last season UNC ran the ACC table? Man, I can't remember the last undefeated season for the Tar Heels, but I'll tell you what, I will research that before I record tomorrow's show, and I will have that for us all. If somebody knows it, you can drop it in as well. Oh, Derek Murphy says the double free throw thing was a free Chick-fil-A sandwich. Love that as well. Great. Okay. I think, several people, Joseph's recap says, Isaac, do you think the State defender flopped to get a flagrant foul on Baycott? It was Middlebrooks, right? If I remember correctly. I don't think it was a flop, but it was just kind of a forearm shove from Armando. And it's like, dude, you're a big man. Like, there's no reason you should be falling. If I remember correctly from our NC State preview on today's show, Ben Middlebrooks weighs the exact same as does Armando Baycott. Like, I think they're both 6'10", 240, if I remember correctly. So there is no, I don't think he was looking for a flagrant. But yes, that's a flop. There's no reason that it's like, you remember that, what was the meme of, who was that NBA player blowing, like he was always on LeBron from the Pacers? It's like that. It's like, come on, man, that doesn't push you over. And I just think it's one of those moments where the refs got duped. They should not. That's the other thing, is it shouldn't have mattered. They should not have called anything. Jay Billis was all over it on the call. Ugh. Okay, I'm riled up about that. And let's get one more question here. Emily Von Pocky says, which opponent coming up in our schedule should we really have our eye on as we get further into conference play? And Emily, I'm assuming you mean like in terms of being worried or concerned about. Let me look ahead at the schedule. Here's the upcoming games between now and getting to Duke. Home Syracuse, home Louisville, at BC, home to Wake, at Florida State, at Georgia Tech, home to Duke. In that stretch, honestly, the 2 games that I am most concerned, obviously Duke, like let's just right? The 2 games that I'm most concerned about that we need to have our eyes on is Wake Forest. I know they just took a loss last night, but They're playing really well for the third straight year. They have a great transfer guard. It's Hunter Salas, who came over from Gonzaga. Thankfully, we get that game at home and don't have to play in Winston-Salem this year, but that is a critical game. And then the one right after that, where Carolina has to go to, oh, by the way, the other thing about the Florida State game, or about the Wake Forest game, Carolina will have been at Boston College on Saturday and then back home for that Wake Forest game on Monday. So that's a very quick turnaround. Although if I remember correctly, Wake will be away. I don't remember, but that's a quick turnaround. That's tough. And then that next Saturday, Carolina's at Florida State. The Tar Heels should win that game, but man, that's a tough environment where Carolina has struggled before. So there are tougher games in the back half of the schedule, Emily, that we'll talk about and get to. But for right now, that is a very tough one. And by the way, I can't remember if I said it, but right now the Tar Heels have the 6th strongest strength of schedule at KenPom. 6th in the nation. That's ridiculous, and that's bonkers. All right, Lance Stevenson. Thank you, Derek Murphy. That's exactly who it was. Gosh, that is one of the wildest things. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to get off here so I can go prep for tomorrow's show, get that recorded for you, get it ready so you can listen to it in the morning. If you want to join live, I will probably have that premiere on YouTube at 11 Eastern, 10 Central Time. So if you want to hop into the live chat in the morning, we will do that as well. All right, folks, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Thanks so much for joining us. We will talk tomorrow, but until then, peace.